The Heroners are a group of cyclists who ride in the early mornings primarily, but also on the weekends. We often meet before the sun gets up and collect in one or two places. Here we have us collecting at the west end of the Arboretum, which is McCaffrey and Seminole Highway in Madison. And as we collect, we of course socialize and talk about our day ahead. We meet on Tuesdays and Thursdays. On Thursdays, we meet here at the west end of the Arb. And when we meet on uh, Tuesdays, we meet at the bike path where it crosses Midvale, also sometimes known as the Buffalo. There you'll see there's a bike stand for last minute repairs where we meet. That's Midvale Boulevard in the background, and there of course are the Buffalo. Our rides are good group rides. We are group-minded cyclists. We look out for each other. Here people are telling me to move over because of an obstruction in the path. And we maintain a reasonable pace. I wouldn't say we're a really fast group, but we're not biking leisurely either. There's the group leaving the Arb and heading up a hill and making me work to catch them. Our rides are very friendly. Our rides are also instructive. If you come to our rides, all are welcome. Come to our rides, but be prepared for us to give you pointers in order to make the entire group as safe as possible. As I said, we're good at pointing things out. We also, for the most most of the time, we'll ride two abreast, sometimes in a pace line, but often two abreast, tightly two abreast. Notice we're nowhere near the center line. In fact, the picture ahead has no one actually on the roadway. But yet we're still two abreast. So we'll ride pretty tightly, of course moving out for obstructions and what have you. The ride, as I said, gets off at 5:30 in the morning, so it's often dark. Cars have their headlights on. We wear bright lights to maintain visibility, and we respect things like traffic circles. Here we are stopping for a traffic light. This is our group riding tightly, as I mentioned, and one thing we're doing here is we're riding uphill, and our rides do have some hills, not overly hilly. And when we go up hills, some hills will go up pretty tightly as a group, other hills will have some fun on and make some digs and play around a little. It's always a good time to do that. You'll notice as we come to the top of the hill here, you'll notice a few heads turning, and what they're doing is they're checking on the other riders, because this is, while it's a significant hill, it's not one we usually play on, and so the rider there is looking over his shoulder, making sure the entire group is together before we start heading downhill. Okay, and then after looking out for each other, then we move to pace lines. It usually takes somebody to start it, and we'll see that happen here. Person ahead of me is going to decide, okay, let's get this ball rolling, and he'll move to the front and he'll give a little signal with his hand, and when he gets to the front, he'll tell the people at the front, okay, here we go, we're going to start rotating. And as other of us come up, we're going, okay, yeah, we're rotating. The wind is in a certain direction, so we'll rotate a particular way. And so here we go. Here's the beginning of the rotation. And you notice I'm going to come up on the cyclist, not too fast. I'm going to try and maintain pretty much the same speed. Don't accelerate. I was already passing him when I went by. And then gently ease over. And as I ease over, my cat is screaming in the background. Then we have the cyclist do the same thing. He just did a shoulder check to see where I was, moved over, Now I want to attach myself to his rear wheel. I don't want to let there be a big gap between us. Keep this nice and tight, and the circle keeps going round and round. Another thing we like to do is play on the hills. And here we are, we're sprinting for a hilltop. Some people went too early and are slowing down. Others are still pulling away. I'm going to try and reel some of these guys in as they give it up. And just before the top, we find some soldiers who did their best but didn't quite make it. There's the winner turning the corner, and I'm up there. Oh, that hurts. But it also feels really good. And then we're not actually going this way. We took that turn. What we're doing is we're collecting the rest of the group, so we don't make all the spent riders behind us chase us. So that's what we're doing here, nice and slow. Everybody else comes up, and away we go. So back to the pace line. Here's some more basics. I follow that rear wheel back, and what's happening here is I want to move over onto that wheel to move from what we call the slow line, this line that seems to be going backwards, into the fast line. And I want to do that in a way that I get right on it, so I'm right in the slipstream. And then I want to keep right on that wheel, and if the line kind of accelerates, what I want to do is smooth that out as best I can. And one way I can help the group is to keep it in a really low gear. So you notice we're spinning pretty quickly, right? So when we press on the pedals, we don't have these surge forward, right? So you put a little more energy in the pedals, you're just going to be increasing your cadence a little. So your changes in speed are slight. Every change in speed at the front is magnified at the back. When I'm actually doing this, I'm looking out the corner of my eye and I can see the rate at which that person fades. So I generally know exactly when to ease over. And I watch this guy come by me in the corner of my eye. And if he's coming by too quickly, then, I know I'm going to have to speed up pretty soon to keep his wheel. If he's coming by too slowly, that means I'm going too fast. I need to slow down just a hair, just to really modulate that speed very carefully. So the pace lines are a lot of fun. More fun than maybe it looks on video, but it actually is quite fun. And we like to play on the hills. Sometimes a hill like this, we'll pretty much take it as a group. It's short, it's not too steep. Everybody will sort of more or less keep the same pace. But as we saw before, there's a little playfulness on the hills. Early in the morning, these roads are really quiet. We don't really, we're very wary of motorists, but we really don't have too much to worry about. We try and stay away from the center line, of course, and try to ride no more than 2 abreast. And in certain situations when there's later in the day and there's more traffic, we'll bike single file. But these early morning rides are great, low traffic rides. You may have noticed the traffic we saw in Seminole was all going the other way. They're coming into town, and so it doesn't really bother us. And downhills are usually taken with some degree of caution, being careful, looking out for gravel and all that good stuff. The pace line can seem quite fast at times, but generally we don't work too hard at the front. Our pace lines are almost always under 30 miles an hour. A fast group pace line will be a little around 30 or greater. Ours are 25 when it's fast, and sometimes even slower than that. And again, nice and smooth. When he comes over to the slow line, he's just going to slow down just a touch. And in fact, he's really not going to start to slow down much at all until that other person is right in front of him. And that's when he's going to be guided by that wheel right in front of him to come backwards. I think I'm going to fade back here and try and get a picture of the pace line group from the other side of the road. But, there we go. I would normally be getting over onto that wheel. I'm going to let them go a little bit and come over and see what they look like from afar. And there we are, cruising along at 25, 24 miles an hour. And plenty of play in this group. There they are from afar, fairly tight, even on a downhill, but, giving themselves plenty of room just in case something happens. People know there's a hill coming up and somebody might make a move. You never know. There are a lot of sneaky folks in this group. Uh-oh, here I go. I'm making a move for the top of the hill. I am by no means the strongest rider in this group, so we'll see how this fares. I think it ends the way they usually end. Lots of smiles. There we go. Nice job. That's the Heroners. Feel free to join us.